Hello everyone, back tuning into today's second video. We're going to have a look at weather next week to 10 days for today's second video. This is going to take us to around the 28th of December. So we're going through the Christmas period and up to before the new year in the week to 10 day updates, and we actually extend a little bit beyond that, to be honest, with the GFS, because that runs to around 2 weeks, as does the ECMWF ensemble. So I'll bring you up to date with all of the latest developments. We'll start off by having a look at what's going on in the stratosphere. We've been talking about that in the videos every day for the past week or two. We'll have more on that for today's video to start off with, and then I'll bring you up to date with the weather for the next week to 10 days. Tonight we've got the 22nd Christmas update coming up for you, so that'll be with you around 7 o'clock. Busy day at Gaz Office. I'm running a bit late, so I think better rattle on through. Going to start off by having a look at what's going on in the stratosphere over the North Pole. This is the very latest from the JMA, looking at 30 HPA, which is one of the top levels of the atmosphere in the stratosphere over the North Pole. So the grey line here is a trend line for this time of the year. We're in a cooling time of the year, of course, bottoming out sometime around the end of December, early January, with the cold temperatures in the stratosphere at 30 HPA. The black line shows how temperatures have been performing through this season, starting off at the beginning of September. That's where we are right now. We're a little bit above average, actually, in terms of the temperature at 30 HPA. It's not a big deviation, but it is ever so slightly warmer than average. You go higher up to 10 HPA, we see that it's a little bit warmer still. So again, the grey line is a trend line. The black line shows how temperature's been performing. Went quite cold at 10 HPA through November, but where we are right now is actually a little bit milder than average, a little bit warmer than average, with that black line above the grey line telling us that temperatures at both 30 and particularly at 10 HPA in the stratosphere over North Pole are above average, and they're going to get warmer. So this is the latest forecast from the GFS via metroshield.fr. And we can see the blue and purple colours here over the top of the North Pole. That's the cold temperatures in the stratosphere at the moment. So it's a little bit milder than average, but it's still going to be very cold in the stratosphere over the North Pole right now. But we've got a stratospheric warming on the way, and that starts on the 22nd of December over Siberia. There it is with those red colours. No wobbling about this from the GFS. It's now coming within the reliable time frame of the GFS model. It's been modelling this very consistently over the past couple of weeks. So yep, still on course for that southern stratospheric warming starting on the 22nd of December and strengthening into 23rd and Christmas Eve. Those vibrant red colours there that we have over Siberia indicating a major southern stratospheric warming taking place excuse me, over Siberia. Over the Arctic, we've still got these blue and purple colours. They're starting to be displaced, though, and pushed out in towards Greenland and the North Atlantic. So that takes us through to Christmas Day and on to Boxing Day. These bright colours infiltrating further into the North Pole. This is a very, very significant warming of the stratosphere that is going on here. So we go through to the extended range of the GFS model, and we see very little change. That warming continues to penetrate into the North Pole over Christmas up to 28th of December now, pushing these blue colours out of the pole, and very much displacement of the polar vortex going on. That's how we finish up on the 3rd of January. We have pushed the blue colours out of the pole, and we've got these green colours sitting over the North Pole now. And we're very, very close to splitting the vortex, actually. So we've got a blob of blue over there towards Canada and Northeast America, another area of blue across Europe, in between bright colours, and that's just telling us that it is very, very close to a genuine split of the polar vortex at this stage. This is a parallel GFS run, so next year this will become the operational GFS. At the moment, they're just running it in parallel. Again, we have this major warming of the stratosphere taking place over Siberia just before Christmas, and then pushing into the Arctic into a stratosphere over Christmas itself and a little bit beyond Christmas. We go running up towards the new year, and again we find that these blue colours are really being stretched here. So again, we are very close to an actual split of the polar vortex. It is a displacement, a major displacement of the polar vortex, with these blue colours sinking down into Europe and into the North Atlantic. But we are very close to an actual split of the polar vortex there on the 3rd of January. So as far as the GFS is concerned, everything's still on course. ECMWF also showing everything is still on course with this sudden stratospheric warming. So this is how things are looking on the 23rd of December. 144 hours, I say. This is now coming into the time frame, reliable time frame of the models. Again, this from the University of Berlin, and we see that we've got these red colours here. Let's change the colour over. We've got these red colours here over Siberia at 10 HPA, which again is indicating a major sun stratospheric warming taking place before Christmas across Siberia. Not yet into the North Pole. We can see the North Pole marked out here by this black cross just there. As we go through to Christmas Day, we find that warming is intensifying and moving into the North Pole as well. So it looks like it's around Christmas Day that we start to move this sudden stratospheric warming from Siberia in towards the North Pole. Temperatures are lifting up very dramatically at this point around Christmas Day over the North Pole. Then we go to the 26th of December, and again we see on Boxing Day major warming of the stratosphere is going on over Siberia and also into the Arctic as well. And then this is as far as we can go at the moment with the ECMWF stratospheric analysis from the University of Berlin. And this takes us to the 27th of December, where again we see we've got this major warming taking place over the Arctic of the North Pole. And the blue colours, the polar vortex being displaced down here, not showing a split of the polar vortex up to 27th of December, but certainly a major displacement of the polar vortex is taking place. The kind of level this is going up to with this temperature that is being forecast on this chart, it will take this black line up to around that sort of level just there, so somewhere between around -10 and -20. So I say this is a very major warming of the stratosphere that is taking place, or is forecast to take place just before Christmas over Siberia, and then over and after Christmas in terms of the North Pole itself. Going a bit lower down to 30 HPA, that's how things are looking on the 27th of December. So we do see signs that this warming is beginning to infiltrate the lower levels of the stratosphere, getting closer towards the troposphere, which is the boundary level of the actual weather is taking place. So that's still on course as well. And it looks like the zonal winds are going to go into reverse also. So this is again based on the ECMWF at the University of Berlin. This is the wind and flux part of the analysis, and we can see at 1 HPA, which is right at the very, very top of the stratosphere, we are going to get a reversal of the zonal winds if this is right. So that's where we're going to be in a few days' time, but this is where we will be by Christmas. We're underneath this zero line just here, and that tells us that the zonal winds are going into reverse. You're going to get a reversal of the zonal winds at 1 HPA. Also now, at 10 HPA, the ECMWF is beginning to forecast the zonal winds to go into reverse as well. So it's this box just here that we're looking at. So the blue line there, that is depicting 10 HPA. The red line is depicting 30 HPA. You'll notice, it's a little bit hard to make out, but there's this black dashed line just here that is dipping down now towards zero. It is dipping down towards what would be classified as a reversal of the zonal winds at 10 HPA. This is a forecast, of course, for Christmas, or a little bit beyond Christmas. and it is showing that the zonal winds are going to be dropping into very close to a reversal, and possibly even going into beyond sort of zero, going into a genuine sort of reversal. But at the moment, it's forecast to get very close to a reversal of the zonal winds, but it may well be that this is going to go into genuine reversal of the zonal winds at 10 HPA. So it's all still on course. The major developments over the stratosphere are still very much on course for this Christmas period, starting before Christmas over Siberia, getting into the Arctic around or just after Christmas, and we will have to wait and see when it's happened what the effects are. GFS ensembles are looking like this. So the red line here is the 30-year upper air temperature average for Northampton. Very local to me today. So we're starting off milder than average. You're going to be a bit up and down with the temperatures over the next few days as warmer and cooler sectors alternate, and that takes us up to Christmas, which is just there. After that, the upper air temperatures are looking solidly above average, really, from Christmas through to New Year. This is associated with high pressure developing close to the country, and we see this from the precipitation part of the chart. So for the next week up to Christmas, plenty of rainfall coming through, going to be more areas of low pressure bringing wet weather, but after Christmas there is very clearly a drying trend in evidence, bearing back by the new year it looks almost completely dry. So high pressure building back in for the end of the year and into the start of 2019. We can see this from this chart here, which is depicting air pressure. So again, we've got the air pressure on the side and the dates are on the bottom. So the GFS ensembles forecasting relatively low pressure for the next few days up to towards Christmas, but you can clearly see as we get to Christmas and beyond Christmas the air pressure is lifting up. So at the moment the air pressure is somewhere between around 1,000 and 1,010 millibars, but by the time we get through to, let's say, New Year's Day, which is just there, we find the air pressure is generally somewhere between around 1,030 1,040 millibars. So a very big rise in air pressure coming up over the next few days, over the next week to 10 days. Looks like air pressure is going to be lifting up big time as high pressure builds in. Temperature anomalies from the 18th to 26th of December are coming out warmer than average, not just for the UK, but through most parts of Europe as well. Precipitation anomalies still wetter than average from the 18th to the 26th of December. So that change to high pressure doesn't happen really until around or a little bit after Christmas. So for the next week, we're looking at pretty unsettled conditions and then the change to high pressure. This is how the GFS is looking in terms of the operational run. So again, we see that it's unsettled for the weekend. Low pressure is close to the country, bringing wet and windy weather, taking us up to Christmas. That's Christmas Eve, where we're bringing up a very mild, balmy southwesterly wind. The air's coming from the Canary Islands with that, so that could be a remarkably mild Christmas Eve for England and Wales anyway. We go through to Christmas Day, but here's the change towards high pressure beginning to start building in close to the UK, and that trend just continues through the course of next week. Increasingly high pressure takes over, and so as we get up towards New Year, this is New Year's Day for example, high pressure up to 1,045 millibars now, a very intense area of high pressure sitting over the top of the country. So that would obviously bring very dry conditions, high and dry for the new year. It just depends whether this is a clear high. If it is, we might get frost and fog, or where we have a lot of anticyclonic gloom trapped underneath it. If that happens, then it will be relatively mild at night, but I suppose days will be pretty chilly and gloomy. We won't know until much closer to the time frame whether this is going to be a clear or cloudy high. That's how the parallel GFS run is looking. So all looking very similar up to Christmas, rather unsettled. And then over Christmas, we get this increasing trend towards high pressure developing close to the UK. This position is a little bit different compared to the operational GFS, but nevertheless, they're both doing the same thing, which is building up pressure close to the UK and across much of northern Europe as well. And this high pressure continues up towards New Year. There we are again. We see, but on New Year's Day we've got a 1045 millibar area of high pressure over top of the UK, bring a very dry start to 2019. That's how we go up to the 3rd of January, as far as we can go with the GFS, has that high pressure well and truly in place. Will this high pressure be the vessel that takes us into much colder weather? Will this high pressure go north and develop into a northern blocking feature via that sun stratospheric warming and allow cold air to push in from the northeast or from the east? That will be a question that we will be trying to answer, I think, over the next week or two. This is how the GM is looking. So again, very unsettled over the weekend, running up to Christmas. Low pressure is in control. And then over Christmas, we get this change to high pressure. That's how we look at day 10. High pressure is more or less taken over. It's still a little bit unsettled for far north and west of Scotland, but basically most of the country is under high pressure. And that could either bring it will bring mainly dry weather. It could either bring fairly cold, frosty, foggy weather, or it might bring anticyclonic gloom. And again, we won't know until closer to the time frame. ECM, very similar, unsettled over the weekend, running up to Christmas, low pressure in control. And then we get towards Christmas, not quite as much influence actually from high pressure up to Christmas and beyond on the ECM. That's how we look at the very end, Friday the 28th of December, with high pressure. Yes, it is building in from the southwest, but it's not quite as centrally located at this point. We are very close actually to pulling down some cold air from the north. We've got this deep trough sitting over Scandinavia to our northeast. We're very, very close to pulling down a cold northerly wind, just not quite pulling it off at day 10. That's how the upper air temperatures look. So there is cold air just threatening to our north. So that's a little bit different compared to the other runs. But I think the basic idea is that high pressure is increasingly influential around and after Christmas. It's how the ECMWF ensembles are looking in terms of the postage stamps for Christmas Day. Again, this is coming from the Icelandic Met Office. So we've got 26, half of the ECMWF ensembles that are looking like this. It includes the control and operational, what we're just looking at, with below average heights generally to the east, above average heights just to our west, and doing something a little bit like that with flowing with the jet. So with those ones, again, high pressure is just out to the west of the country. There's a lot of dry weather associated with that. Temperatures are probably close to average. Have a further 17 that have high pressure again to our west. Maybe a little bit more influence from the Atlantic with those ones, but again, very similar type pattern. And then we have 8, a minority option that has high pressure closer to Iceland. These ones could be pulling down some colder air from the northeast, but again, a very minority sort of option. That's wrong. Let's go back here. And then right at the very end of the ECM ensembles, which gets us to New Year's Day, well, look at this. We have 51 out of 51 ensemble members, which is 100%. In 336 hours, a very, very long time away, but has high pressure centred over the top of the UK on New Year's Day. So all members of the ECM ensembles are forecasting high pressure in 2 weeks. So this is a 2-week forecast, but all ensemble members are forecasting high pressure to be over top of the UK, telling us that the solution the GFS is showing for New Year, which of course was that's how the operational GFS is looking for New Year's Day. This is how the parallel GFS is looking for New Year's Day. That is supported by 100% of ECMWF ensemble members. All 51 ECM ensemble members are forecasting that to be the position of the high pressure on New Year's Day. So obviously we've got to go with the idea that high pressure is going to be building very strongly between Christmas and New Year. And we're going to have this large area of high pressure sitting over top of the UK by the time we get to 2019. Finally, just leaving you with CFS V2. So this is how CFS is currently forecasting January. So the CFS wants to take this high pressure that is building over the top of the UK for New Year, wants to take it north up towards Greenland. and set up an area of below average heights underneath it. Send the NAO very negative. And between the two, you'll be pulling in the winds from the northeast. So this could be bringing very cold air down into much of northern Europe. And you might get that cold air right way back into the northwest, into the UK. So again, we do see that the CFS is very set on building up heights towards Greenland and a northern blocking feature through January. The temperature anomaly at the moment is showing a colder than average January for northern Europe. So Scandinavia is being forecast to get a significantly colder than average January, as is much of central northern Europe. So the UK, we're just on the periphery of it. It doesn't quite back those golden average temperature anomalies to us, but it's not far away. And we can see that much of southern Europe as well is forecast to have a rather milder than average January. So CFS is turning this high pressure that could be building up between Christmas and New Year. It's turning that into a major blocking feature as we get into January. And it looks like northern Europe anyway could be plunged into the freezer in January. And there is probably a decent chance we'll be able to back that into the northwest of Europe as well. I suspect this is all sudden stratospheric warming related. Right, so that's brought you up to date with all of the latest details. The SSW is on the way. There's been no change overnight to that. And once it happens, it looks like the initial response will probably be to build high pressure up around much of Europe through between Christmas and New Year, so up to New Year, high pressure building in. Then after the New Year, be a case of where does that high pressure go? And we'll have more on that in the days ahead, I'm quite sure. Right, so that's brought you up to date with the next week to 10 days. Just got a Christmas update to do tonight, and then we'll be finished for today. Don't forget to check out the ECMWF 30-day ensemble update that was released earlier on. It's the last one of the year. It'll be back in 3 weeks' time on the 8th of January. So don't get to have a look at that if you'd like to do that. Say forecast for the UK and for Europe too for the next month. But that's all for now. We'll be back with Christmas update tonight. That's all for now. Thanks for watching.